Okay guys, so in this video what we're going to be working on is the fireball of Ken, okay? And so this is pretty much like the first special move of Street Fighter 2 that I learned, and pretty much my go-to move. So I would use this whether they're close range, far away, whatever. I was spamming a fireball, and my friends really hated it. But we're going to be looking at that today. And so your code looks like this. And so what we want to do is go ahead and add all the things that we will need to create our fireballs. So the first thing we're going to need to do is set up our animation sequences. Okay, and so here we left off with our high kick, and so here we're just going to say let Ken, that's a lowercase Ken fireball, and then I'm just actually going to copy one of these, makes it easier. And here we're going to be at 615, 514. This is going to be a 52 width and the 100 height. So I'm just going to copy this because this is more in line with now we only need 4 frames. So this next number is going to be 671. This is going to be 742 and 813. And these are all 514, 67, 67, 70. Copy this. And this is going to be mirror. And so here, this is going to be 932, 859, 788, and 714. Okay. And so there are a few variables that we need for our fireball. And the first one is going to be fireball. Okay, so this is going to be part of the controls, just kind of like high kick. Okay, fireball is equal to false. And then we're going to set up an array of projectiles. Okay, so this is where we're going to store our fireballs that are on the screen. So here we're just going to say let P1 projectiles equal to an empty array. And then we're going to have this variable called can fire. Now, I'm not sure if I'm really going to implement this during this lesson, but this can fire is going to limit it so that we can't, spam, 5 fireballs on the screen at any one time. I think in the original Street Fighter 2, you could only get like 2 at most. I think it was either 2 or 3, but it wasn't very many. Okay, so that's what that variable is going to allow us to do. And then we need this idea of a fireball. Okay, so this fireball is going to be an object. And so we're just going to do that through a function. So we'll call this a projectile. And this projectile is going to have a few parameters. It's going to have an X and a Y of where it starts, a direction, and it's going to have a speed and a type. Okay, so the speed is in case we want to maybe speed up the game, kind of like Street Fighter 2 Turbo. We can actually just put that in. The type is that there are like different fireballs for different characters: Guile, Ken, Chun-Li, Sagat, they all have different fireballs, and so this would be useful in determining that. Okay, so we just need to define these, and so this, we're just going to say this dot x is equal to x, this dot y is equal to y, this dot direction, I'm just going to shorten that to that dir is equal to direction. This dot type is equal to type. This dot frame is equal to 0. This dot frame counter so this, I'm not quite sure if we really even need this, so I'm just going to get rid of that. Okay, so frame and frame counter is going to help with the animation. There is an animation that happens with this projectile. And so what we're going to do now is, so whenever we fire, we're going to create an object from this function. And we're going to store that object in player 1 projectiles. And then we're going to draw all the projectiles that are in this array. And so we need a new function that's going to draw these projectiles. And we're going to call that function, I bet you guessed it, we're going to call it draw projectiles. And it might help if I spelled it correctly. So draw projectiles. And so for this, I created this little breakpoint for our loop so that it breaks out of a loop. And I mean, for this one, I guess we really don't need it, so I'm just not going to put it in there. But so what we really need to do is we just need to loop over this projectiles. Okay, so we're just going to create a standard for loop. I is less than P1 projectiles dot length I plus plus, and I don't know why it's not automatically indenting my new lines, but I'll figure that out later. Okay, so here we're going to do similar to what we do with our animations for players. We're going to advance the frame counter. So we're going to say P1 projectiles at I dot frame counter. Okay, and then here we're just going to say if P1 projectiles at I dot frame counter mod 5 is equal to 0, then we're going to do a few things. We're going to set the frame counter back to 0. We're going to say, just going to copy this, film lazy, is equal to 0. And then we're going to adjust the frame and then we're going to check to see if the frame is greater than 1, then we're going to set it back to 0, because there's just two alternating images that we're going to be using here. So if we look at it, so right here, these are the alternating images. So we have one here and then one here. So so the first image is going to be at frame 0, and then frame 1, and then if it's at frame 2, which is greater than 1, then we're going to set it back to 0. Okay, and so now what we want to do is check on the direction, because that's going to determine which one we draw. And so we're going to say if P1 projectiles at I.dir is equal to right, then we're going to say, well, if the frame is equal to 0, so if the frame is equal to 0, I'm just going to indent it at the end. Then we're going to draw this image, and I'm just going to copy and paste this piece of the code. So we're going to draw the image from the Ken sprite sheet, and the X and Y is going to be at 891 and 548, and the width and height are going to be 26 and 27. And then we're going to draw it at projectiles at X and projectiles at I dot Y. And so let's see here. Okay, and so we'll keep the same dimensions of 26 and 27 here. Okay, so that is if the frame is at 0. And I'm just going to copy and paste this. And so if the frame is at 1, we are going to change it up. So the only thing really that's going to change is this right here. This is going to become 921. Oops. And then 548. And then this is going to be 33. And this is going to be 24. So I'll say 33, 24. And so that looks good. Okay, so now if it's left, basically it's the same thing. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to just copy this. And change this to left. This is going to be Ken mirror. This is going to be 644, 549. Some slight changes here. This is going to be 32. 23, 32, 23, 644, this one is going to be 681, 548, 25, 27. I think I may have to switch those up. I don't know. When we test it, it will show up if that's the case. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to advance this fireball. And so here we're just going to say P1 projectiles at I dot X is going to be plus equal to P1 projectiles at I dot speed. Okay. And so this should be all draw projectiles, and it is. Okay, so in the key down handler, we're going to add a new key here. And the key is going to be 7. So now you may be thinking, well, the fireball is going to be backwards, down, and forwards, plus a punch button. And that will generate a fireball. Well, we're not going to do that right now. What we're just doing is setting up the fireball animation and mechanic. And then later on, much later on, we'll get all the actual sequencing for moves, like sequencing of controls for the moves. But right now, that's the least of our concerns. We're just going to set up everything else. And so here, if it's 103, then we're going to say, well, if player 1 state dot state is equal to can idle, or if it's equal to the mirror. Okay, so this means that Ken is just hanging out. And if he's just hanging out, then, well, hey, we can shoot a fireball. But if not, then we can't. So this is just, it's going to say fireball is equal to true. All right. And so now what we want to do is we just want to set up that the actual animation inside of draw Ken. And so that's going to be at the end of so it's going to be right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy some of this. Else if so if it equals Ken fireball, we're going to draw an image. So I'm just going to copy this. And then this image is going to be of Ken fireball. So I got to change these. And this is not going to be the mirror image. And we can get rid of this -1 there. All right, so here's the thing. When we played the fireball animation, and I'll go ahead and look at that real quick. So this one, we don't want to add a fireball to the fireball array on frame 0. So we want to go to frame 3 and then shoot the fireball. Okay, and so here what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if, so right here we're going to say, well, is P1 frame equal to 3? And if it is, what we're going to do is we're going to slow down the animation because it kind of slows down, and we're going to say frame speed is equal to 16. So this is going to slow down the animation. So the third frame of our animation is going to last longer. Okay, in fact, it's going to last a little over twice as long. And then we're going to reset the frame count. So we're going to say P1 frame count is equal to 0. And then we're going to create this new fireball. And we're going to say let FB is equal to a new projectile. And so this one is going to, the projectile, since we're facing right, the projectile is going to extend from our hands. And so I've already come up with the positioning for that. So it's going to be P1x plus 40 and P1y plus 36. That looked good to me. The direction is going to be right, a speed of 3, and a type of 1. Okay? And we're going to push this into our projectile. So we're going to say P1 projectiles dot push, and we're going to push in this fireball. All right. And then we are going to, so there was something going on with, okay, what we want to do is reset the frame speed after the frame count goes above 15. So what we're going to do is, so that our next animation is not out of sync. Okay, so here we're just going to say else if P1 frame is equal to 3 and P1 frame count is greater than or equal to 15. Okay, so if this is the case, we are going to say frame speed is equal to 8. Okay, so that pretty much takes care of that. And so what we want to do now is this else if right here. We are going to copy it, paste it, and this is going to be Ken mirror fireball. We're going to copy this because we need to change this to Ken mirror, which is the sprite sheet we're going to work from, and we need to change these all to okay. If P1 frame is equal to 3, frame speed is equal to this, and this one is going to be, we're going to add nothing to it, and we're going to add about 40 to the P1y. This is going to be left facing, and the speed is going to be a -3. Okay, and so that looks good. Okay. And then we have the one last thing here. Okay, so right here, we're inside of controls. Okay, and then down after we checked for high kick. Okay, after we check for high kick, we're going to do our else if for our fireball. Else if so we're going to set fireball equal to false. If player 1 state so if it's equal, if the state is equal to the mirror, I'm just going to indent these later. We're going to set the player state to Ken mirror fireball. And so I'm just going to actually copy this. Ken mirror fireball. And for Ken mirror fireball, there are going to be 4 frames. Auto repeat is false, and it is going to default to the Ken idle mirror. Okay, and so this is just going to be an else statement down here. I'm going to copy this because a lot of that's going to be the same. It's going to be an else. and we're going to say can fireball. And this is going to default to can mirror, can idle, not can mirror. Okay, and so for both of these, we want to set the P1 frame back to 0. So here, I guess we could just do this. We can just say P1 frame is equal to 0. Okay. And now what we want to do is here, what we want to do is we want to actually say, and I'm going to copy this, can fireball, can mirror fireball. Okay. And so that takes care of that. And so all we should have to do is actually call our draw projectiles. So I'm going to say draw projectiles. Draw projectiles. And let's hope for the best. Okay, so here, all of our punching and stuff makes sense. Whoa. So that's an issue. It's kind of cool. That could be like a super special thing. Now, I think I was being a little bit optimistic when we said we did not need a certain variable, and now I know why I added it. Okay, so up here, we're going to come up here, and so this can fire is equal to true. All right. And then what we want to do is in our key down handler, we're going to say can fire is equal to true. All right. And then I'm just going to go ahead. Let's see here. So I'm going to go down to our can fireball here. All right, so here, and then right here, we're going to say and can fire. And then same thing right here, we're just going to say and can fire. And inside of these, we're going to set can fire equal to false. Cool. Okay, so this is going to be the same down here. I'm just going to paste it down here. So now can fireball, can mirror fireball are the same. Okay. And so let's actually see what that does, if that improves our situation. Okay, does it work from our mirrored image? Okay, one thing I'm seeing is that if you start a fireball, you can actually get out of the frames. So we need to fix that. Okay, so how are we going to fix that? Well, we have these properties right here. And so we're going to go ahead and fix that by adding can fireball and can fireball mirror, can mirror fireball to this list. So here we're going to say can fireball and can mirror fireball. Okay, so we got that. And then what we want to do is go down to controls. And so we're going to go ahead and copy this and add that to our non-interruptible states. And I think that will fix it. Okay, so it doesn't exactly fix it. So we don't want to be able to walk out of it or jump out of it. Okay, so that's going to be up here. So if left pressed and right pressed. So this is going to, so if we're right pressing and it is, firing off a projectile, then it's going to cancel. It's going to cancel it and it's going to move on. Okay, so that's not something we want. And so we're going to say, and player 1 state does not equal to can fireball. Let's copy this again. Can mirror fireball. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this part right here and do it the same for right, and we'll see if we fixed our problem. Okay, so if left pressed and next state. This is the issue here. State. Okay, so now we can't get out of the fireball until it actually has run its course. Now I don't remember what the original game did for that. So it might be that the original fireball, you could cancel out of it. But this is how we're going to keep it for now until I actually can go back and look at that. But that's it for this tutorial. In our next tutorial, I'm not quite sure. I already have them made, so I'm just kind of like going through them and talking out the code. But they're all separated out, so I'm not sure if it is sound or we're adding Chun-Li so that we can see our fireballs start to take effect or something like that. I don't quite remember what comes next, but it's going to be cool, whatever it is, because at each step we're going to get closer and closer to something that's going to look a little bit more complete. So something more along these lines. And so I'll kind of get us and I plan to show this in a video, but I guess I just haven't gotten around to it. But so basically this is spam her to death.
You win.
And so that's pretty much what we'll be playing towards or coding towards in our next videos. So whatever it is in our next video, it's going to get us closer to that goal. Okay, so hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I look forward to seeing you in our next one.